Silver has crossed 3 lakhs mark. This is my third video on silver, and every time I'm creating a video on silver, silver has crossed some or the other mark. The bigger question is, should you buy silver, hold silver, or sell silver? And the honest answer is, I really don't know. Actually, nobody can predict silver's price because it is now beyond the demand and supply that I have been talking about. In this video, I'm going to show you some interesting data points about silver because I truly believe that it is now not about demand and supply gap of the silver. It is much more than that, and that is precisely the insights I want to share with you. If I take a step back and talk about silver's massive bull run, it all started in June 2025, and in the 8 months of period, silver has gone up by almost 200%. Unprecedented rally, and majority of this rally, one could argue that it was basically because of the demand and supply gap. However, if I now zoom into this particular chart, what you note is something interesting. Around 24th December to let's say 5th of January, around 8 to 10 days of period, silver was moving sideways at around 2,40,000 sort of a mark. Now, a lot of people at that time started saying that, you know what, this is where silver is now consolidating. This is a very, very good consolidation range for silver. But guess what happened? From 5th of January onwards, another fresh silver rally broke out. As you can see here, the green candles. And since then, it has gone up by almost 26% and has crossed 3 lakh mark. So this fresh rally to me doesn't seem to be because of a demand and supply gap. Why do I say that? Let me take you to LBMA's silver inventory data. I had shared this data with you in my previous video as well, and that's where I talked about the demand and supply gap. And we discussed that the inventory of silver in London is reducing at a very, very fast rate. But now when I am recording this video in January 2026, look what is happening. This is the silver inventory data, okay? And it was all-time low somewhere around, let's say here, in February 2025, almost let's say March 2025, it was very, very low. But since then, the inventory has been restored. It has been going up, 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 up. And if you see here in the month of December 2025, it is actually at a quite a good healthy level as far as I can see. So I don't think inventory shortage is a problem. What does that indicate? It indicates simply that in terms of the demand and supply, it's not that demand is very high and the supply is not there. Because if inventory is building up, what does it tell you? It tells you simply that demand and supply gap is not far, far away. That's one data point that you need to be really, really clear. In my view, it is not because of the demand and supply at the current position. So what is the real reason for silver to rally now by 26% in just few days? One of the reasons is China. What is China doing? China has restricted silver's export from China from 1st of January 2026. Now, what does this actually mean and why media is all of a sudden talking about it? Media started talking about it at the end of the December when this was all over in the news. But you know what? China talked about it in the month of October 2025. 26th of October 2025, Ministry of Commerce of China had published a different procedure for companies in China to export silver. Now, why in October 2025 China introduced this procedure? This was in retaliation of USA's threat of 100% tariffs on China back in October 2025. This was to counter the threat coming from US. Very, very simple. Now, as part of this procedure, what China did was that they said that any company in China that is not producing more than 80 tons of silver, they will not be able to export silver outside China. And there are a lot of other conditions as well that they clearly stated. Now, come 1st of January 2026, Chinese government formally announced that there are total 44 Chinese companies that have become eligible as part of these new procedures to export silver out of China. As a result of this news, a lot of people started buying silver. This is purely sentimental. Why do I say this is purely sentimental? Because as of now, when I'm recording this video on 19th of January, nobody really knows what is the impact of Chinese silver export restrictions, how much of silver supply China is going to restrict. We do not have that data as of now. But just because this news is out, people are thinking that China will completely stop selling the silver in the market, and therefore silver prices are going to go up, and hence people have started buying silver again. Now, if you look at how much silver China exports to the world, here is some data for you. More than 4,000 plus tons of silver almost every year in the last 5 years, you can see China has been exporting to the world. In 2023, it was around $4.42 billion worth of silver, which now should be more than twice or thrice given the silver price rallies. As per this article, China controls around 70% of the silver that big tech and AI and solar power desperately need. And China is deliberately doing this so that they have an economic bargain with countries like US. And why do I say US? Have a look at this data, and what you see is in 25, silver inflows into US has skyrocketed like anything. So US needs a lot of silver. Why do they need a lot of silver? Because they are building a lot of AI and tech and semiconductors, etc. And that's why they need more and more silver. And China is countering that by not giving silver supply from China to other countries. That's why precisely Trump had put all the tariffs on hold on metals like silver, because Trump knows that if he's putting tariffs on silver and many other critical minerals, then US is going to suffer big time. So to sum it up, one of the biggest reason is the tussle between, or rather the trade war between US and China, that is causing the sentimental rally in the silver. In terms of the demand and supply gaps, we do not know how much of supply impact China may cause. That data will only come out, let's say, after a month or two. But until then, it is all sentimental rally in my view. Now, coming back to this 26% rally that we have seen in the month of January so far, the second big reason is what is happening in US. For example, on 6th of January, you all know what happened. US captured President of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro. The same very day, if you look at what happened to silver prices, silver futures gained as much as 7% in one day. Why? Because this was unprecedented. Something like this has never happened in the last 50 to 60 years of history, where US has gone and captured the president of a country. And it was not just one event. On 12th of January, again, gold and silver surged. Why? Because there was a case against the Fed chairman, Powell. Why? Because of some building $2.5 billion of renovation that the Fed did, I don't know when. And all of a sudden there was an indictment on Powell. Now this brings a critical question on the Fed's independence really, because we all know US President Trump and Powell, they are not liking each other at all. Trump wants to fire him, okay, and that begs a question that how independent can Fed actually operate in US? And that's why it creates a lot of pressure in equity market as well. And when that happens, people start moving into safe havens like gold and silver. The third big event started to shape up in the last couple of days when Trump started saying that he is going to capture or he's going to get Greenland into US. And if EU is not backing Trump up on this one, then they are going to face tariffs. How much of tariffs? From 1st of February, 10%, and from June onwards, it's going to be around 25% and more. Now, this is the start of another trade war, and maybe a bigger thing that I don't want to say in front of you, but possibly it could cause a lot of damage to world's economy, because if EU and US are fighting over Greenland in terms of whether it's an economic war or a real war, it is going to cause a lot of damage. Now, if on 1st of February, these 10% tariffs come into effect, I don't know whether they will or they will not, EU is considering that they are going to put tariffs on $93 billion of goods that comes into EU. So as per this data, EU imports around $303 billion worth of goods from US, and it comes out to be around 20.2% of US imports. So it's a heavy chunk. And out of this value, they are going to put some tariffs if US put some tariff. So essentially what is happening is that US and EU are also likely to enter into a tariff war, trade war, and that is not good for financial systems. And of course, whenever these situations happens, gold and silver rally, and that's what is precisely happening right now. Now coming to the $1,000,000 question, what should we do? Should we buy silver, hold silver, or sell silver? It is entirely your call. Nobody has got it right so far. There are few people who have been getting their silver prediction right. For example, Motilal Oswal on 10th of January, they said that silver is likely to go 3.20 lakh target. It is very, very close to that. Of course, I don't know whether it's going to hit 3.2 lakh or not, but they predicted it, right? And before this, they had also initiated earlier that silver is likely to hit 2.4 lakh. So they seem to be predicting it pretty well. Second person who's been getting it right is Rich Dad, Poor Dad's author, Robert Kiyosaki. he has been making bold prediction about silver, and he's saying that silver might go up to $200. That's what his predictions are. Now, whether it is going to come true or not, we don't know. Although he keeps changing his view on a day-to-day basis as the silver prices go up, because earlier he was saying that I'm going to buy up until $100 and then wait, as you can read here. So again, things are changing very, very rapidly. It's extremely hard for anybody to predict these prices. My last point on silver, there is a famous 80-50 rule that generally is given as a thumb rule. I'm not saying that you follow it. What does this simply mean? That when gold to silver ratio hits 80, that means silver is cheap, meaning that 80 ounce of silver can buy 1 ounce of gold. It means silver is cheap. You should buy silver at that time. That's what the thumb rule says. But the 50 says here that if the gold to silver ratio is 50, meaning that 50 ounces of silver can buy 1 ounce of gold, that means silver is really, really costly. You can see that ratio somewhere here. Okay. As of now, for example, gold to silver ratio is at around 50. It's come down. If you go back to, let's say, 2011, 10, at that time also it was like 50. After that, it did not drop much. So there is a case here that people use this thumb rule as well. Again, from my side, it is not a recommendation. I honestly cannot predict silver's price. That's where it stands. However, I keep reading these data points just so that at least I'm informed what's happening in the world. Take this as an educational video, do your own research, and whether you want to take bets in silver or not, it's entirely your call. If you like this video, request you to share this with your friends and family so that everybody gets to this data insight and they understand what is happening in the silver. And if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button. I'm going to see you in my next video. Until then, keep rocking.